I heard about John Sykes passing away the other day, and there's so many great guitar players that I have some type of place in my heart or of importance of making me love music, and John Sykes was absolutely one of them. And he's one of those like people that he really didn't do a lot, like, but what he did do was great, And then he stayed away for a while, and there was rumblings of reunions, and we all wanted it. Anybody that knew who he was and the importance in bands that he has played. So I kind of want to just off the cuff tell stories about my experience with him through my speakers and growing up. So the first story I'll tell is being old enough to see the world premiere of Still of the Night. So, I'm a toddler, and I would always go downstairs and try to find, G.I. Joe, or see if Kiss was on TV, or go to MTV, man, I remember Rat, Round and Round playing, and Looks to Kill, and Too Young to Fall in Love, All Hell's Breaking Loose. Man, I love that vibe of music. And I go downstairs, and I turn it on. World premiere, it might have even been Downtown Julie Brown, but world premiere of Whitesnake, Still of the Night. And I don't, I'm sure I've heard Whitesnake, but, this is the first time Still of the Night is on the airwaves. And I just remember that guitar, and then that squeal, wow, 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 and I was just blown away. I was like, wow, they're as good as Kiss. It's what my 4-year-old. That's just how good it sounded. It's how, like, to me, how just, it sounded incredible. So that had a major impact in my life, that guitar sound. The other stories that I would have, I've got so many. I remember, my dad would work night shift and come home and play music, and I remember hearing Slide It In for the first time, which is John Sykes. And I remember just having a crazy dream. It had nothing to do with the words or nothing, because I didn't know what they were at the time. But I had like a crazy dream about me and this girl, and like, high school love and stuff like that. And I think I was like, probably 8 or 9 years old or something, just crazy. I bought a $5 Thin Lizzy live album, and it was incredible, But before I bought that album and I listened to it, Still in Love with You was just excellent on there. But before I bought that one, I remember being in my early 20s and looking to be in a band, and that was the first time I really heard the name for that guitar player of that band. Later I found out the importance he played as far as a songwriter and composer, but I didn't really know the name. And one of my friends that were wanting me to play in their band was like, hey, have you heard of Blue Murder? And I was like, no. And John Sykes, and I'm like, God, that name sounds familiar. And he goes, Whitesnake. And I was like, oh wow. So I get in the car, and Riot played, and man, it was so cool. There was that guitar, there's that tone. The same amp was also used for No Rest for the Wicked. Ozzy, Zakk Wylde wanted that tone. We all wanted that tone. Blue Murder, I had a black 95 Mustang, and just, playing Blue Murder in it, just pulling into the gas station and stuff. I just felt like I looked cool, and I had blue lights, and just that music just kind of went with it so well. And then that's when I found the Thin Lizzy live where he sang, and then it led me down a rabbit hole of Tigers of Pantang and those, which I wasn't really a big fan of that. And then I find Thin Lizzy's Thunder and Lightning, which is my favorite Thin Lizzy album. It's great top to bottom. And even the solo album I'm working on has a song from that. It's probably not going to be a song that you would think it would be, but it's on there from there. And That's John Sykes. It's not the guitar that you know, but it's John Sykes. So a lot of love and admiration. A lot of thoughts when I play guitar. It's WWJD, what would John do? And I remember learning Is This Love? And I remember driving down the road and just listening to that song as a study more so than just enjoyment. And I remember just that solo, just first couple of notes, into that big bend. It really kind of changed my playing, because a lot of times I think of that when I would write a solo and things of that nature. So this is kind of like my remembrance of John Sykes. There's a ton of other stories, but that's just kind of how important John Sykes was for me. So I hate hearing about that, but I hope him hanging his guitar up. I think I heard that, he hung his guitar up, and it was like last year or something like that, and you're just like, wow, there's not ever going to be a reunion or anything. And then, then we find out, it's kind of like Don Dokken. Don Dokken had a lot of health issues that has affected him. But anyway, this video is about John Sykes. Some of my stories, how I remember him, how I'll always remember him and carry a part of him around it with me. Well, I just thought of another story. So, the black Les Paul, I remember, $4,000 in, 2000 and, I don't know, 7, 8. I can't remember when it came out, but I went into a Guitar Center and they had that, and I remember $4,000. I'll never be able to afford that, so I couldn't get it, but I did get to play on it, and I've always wanted one. I do play a Les Paul. But anyway, that's my story of John Sykes. Share your stories in the comments. Have you got to meet him? Have you seen him live? Some of the first stories that you have, to John Sykes, So anyway, we'll be back. Metal Machines Crush. This page is going to have everything with rock and roll. It's a lot of Trick or Treat Fastway stuff, but there's going to be so much more. So rest in peace, John Sykes, and you'll still be the soundtrack of my life. So thank you for the music.